Hey guys, today we're going to be checking out the new released Star Ace 300 Rise of an Empire. This is Themistokles, the 1/6 scale collectible action figure. Themistokles, played by actor Sullivan Stapleton, appeared in the 2014 film 300 Rise of the Empire. The figure here gets itself a simple oval-shaped display base. I say simple, but still effective. It has just a standard waist clip at the top that will attach around its torso. And featured on the top here, which I'm glad that they did include, you have 300 Rise of the Empire in a nice blood-splattered effect. When you get this guy out of packaging, a little bit of assembly or a little bit of costume has to be added in that he has his cape here. The cape is harnessed. You can see it's strapped around the back here. And detach it, you don't have to worry about trying to fiddle the hands and arms through the loops. The little front buckle here actually detaches from itself, which makes things a lot easier than to slip his arms through the looplets and then reattach the buckle or snap on the front. It's got some really nice deco there on the top here. A nice gold with some additional kind of browns dry brushed in there. Cape looks good. It's got a really nice flow to it, and I like that it just doesn't fall straight down. It's got some little extra body and loops and little folds and stuff to it. It's a softer material. And it looks like they've also added some additional paint to it, just kind of giving a sense of weathering, so it doesn't really look like a brand new fabric. The only thing I would say, though, about the cape is be very careful these little straps. These straps are a lot thinner than one would expect, so when you are looping it around his arms, for example, make sure that you're not pulling too tight on these, because you really wouldn't want these to break. The rest of his outfit is pretty accurate to how it appeared in the movie. So, for example, he's got what I could only describe as a leather-stitched under trunks. And then above that, he's got himself a weathered blue skirt. And then above that, he's got himself a leather, which I could only describe as kind of like a holstered belt, which will eventually hold his dagger and sword in the sheaths provided on either side. I do think it's done well here. It does convey the sense that it could be made out of a leather material. It's got some little rivets and some stitched areas where you could see that it could theoretically be actually sewn together here. A similar leather-like material, though it would be plastic, of course, would be these little gauntlets on the side that have some nice deco. Now this one's a little bit longer, and as you can see, stitched on the interior. The stitching is not real, it's just sculpted plastic. This one on the other side is a little bit shorter in comparisons, still has the stitch work, and it looks like it's got a little bit of additional weathering as well. And while we are on the topic of costumes, at least, one of my biggest concerns with this particular figure sits in his boot area. The boots run from, well, top of his calf all the way down to his feet. So it's one singular piece of plastic or softer rubber. You can feel that it is softer down here, right where it would be around the foot portion. That inside, in the interior of that, you can feel that there is almost a hinge or joint in which the foot can bend. Unfortunately, though, the fabric is just too dense. The material that they use is just a little too dense that it really eliminates all chances that you can actually rotate the feet. You can rotate them slightly to the side, but what I would have wanted was the means to properly hinge it up and down. I feel as if they could have sliced or had these as separate pieces, the foot being the one part, and then the top of the boot being the second, where a very visible, accessible hinge was still present, where you'd be able to actually hinge the foot up and down. Right now, I feel like I can't really do all that much, which does limit possibilities for how you want to display this guy. Spent so much time talking about the costume, have yet to talk about his face, so let's do that right now. Themistokles has what you could probably see right off the bat as a pre-sculpted expression on his face, a permanent screaming face. So for those who are wishing a more subtle expression, probably may feel a little disappointed, but don't write this figure off just yet, because while other figures have had exaggerated face sculpts, which tends at times to be a deal breaker, I quite feel quite the contrary, actually, when looking at this particular figure. The screaming face actually works quite well, specifically for this general in Rise of the Empire. One thing I do additionally like as well is that they've added a wet coat over top of his tongue, so it does look like it's slightly wet. An ongoing trend with Star Wars releases is the slight imperfections that they add to the skin tone. Let me actually clarify a little bit what I mean by that. Not only do you get the various shades of the skin tone, but if you look really closely, you can see like little spotted areas, little freckles, little imperfections that natural skin would have. In addition to that, I like they added the wrinkles around the furrowed areas of his brow there. And the eyes, much like the tongue, looks like it's been given a slight wet coat over top as well. Much like in the movie, Themistokles has a shorter hairstyle, which conveys quite well here. Sometimes short hair can come across a little fake when it comes to plastic figurehead sculpts, but I think this one's pretty, again, successful. They've got varying degrees of like the darker coloring of the brown of his hair, but as you get throughout the course of his the stubbled beard, it gets progressively lighter. And no way to hide this guy's torso, as he is bare-chested, bare arms, so you can see all the additional details that they've added to this. Now, the figure's torso, like Leonidas, is a rubber. So underneath that, you've got the sculpted torso, but then over top of it, they've added like a rubber layer. I think it's relatively successful because it gives them a chance to add some additional paint to it, and it does feel like it's got a more seamless look design to it. He's got quite a substantial six-pack here, and some additional shading and stuff added in there as well. While we're on the actual topic of the rubber torso, one thing I did notice with this particular figure is the rubber also carries up to the top of the neck. When you're rotating the head of the figure, if the figure's head is slightly ajar or slightly a little higher, when you start moving the head, you'll feel as if at times it's actually clipping the rubber on the top cuff of the neck here. It's a simple case of, if you start feeling as if that be the case, you kind of have to just push the head down a little bit further, and then when you start moving the head again, it doesn't seem to be as much the problem. To add to this guy's expression, they also include a helmet, which, if you look really closely, it looks like it's been just hand forged. All the little hammered out areas. He's got little slashes and stuff like that too, which was probably taken in battle. The helmet fits very securely over top of his face. Part of me perhaps feels as if doing this too often, of removing the helmet, putting the helmet back on, I may start wearing some of the paint that's on the figure's head sculpt. But otherwise, other than that, I think it looks really fantastic. Even in like the movie, he's got the little area in which his ears, a cutaway area of his helmet. Paint is, again, very nicely done here. Not only do you have the darker grays, but the hammered out areas looks like they've got a slight, like, whiter outer area to it as well. Here are the other accessories that come included with Themistokles. Starting with the largest, he comes with a really thick, dense shield. I did notice, though, when I was putting the arm through the shield, that the little, like these little pins, for example, have come loose. They are holed. There's a little hole there where the pin can attach itself. What I may ultimately do is just kind of glue that down, I think, as I certainly don't want that to be coming up on a regular basis. The strap that would go around the arm, for example, feels like it's almost like a faux leather, and then you've got the handle here in which the figure's hand can grip around. Much like the helmet, it's got some great paint to it too. So with the dark gunmetal gray, you've got some additional lighter grays that have been dry brushed in there. I really like this added effect of having these little slashes in there too. It does give the sense that the shield has been used in frequent battles. Also gets himself a bow with a real working cord on the side here. The bow, as you could probably imagine, is a thinner plastic, so be a little bit mindful when you are putting this in and out of his hands. And if you're going to get a bow, you might as well also get yourself an arrow, and they've also included that as well. I'm sure I do not have to stress the fact that this is a thinner plastic, so again, be very mindful of that. Otherwise, the actual stem of the arrow is a dark brown, and then you've got a gunmetal tip, gunmetal silver tip, as well as the end as well. Preferring, I think, to go with one of these instead. He also comes with a large, broad sword and a smaller dagger. They are very similar, not necessarily in their sculpt, but in their paint, as the handles are almost like a dark, borderline black-gray. This one here has some additional kind of lighter grays added to it, and some additional deco on the end. Other than that, the blades are almost identical to one another. There's like these little chipped away areas in which the sword has, of course, been damaged over the course of battle. The interior of the blade is a darker gray. The outer interior is almost closer to a silver. This section right here of his outfit has two sheaths. The larger of the two, of course, will fit the sword, so we'll just move the arm out of the way for that. The sword will slide right into... Always want to make sure I don't accidentally clip his arm in the process, but the sword will slide down into that one area, and then on the side you can go ahead and take the dagger and it'll just slide into place like that. For how nice the shield actually looks with this guy, I'd likely be displaying him with the shield in one hand and likely the broadsword in the other. I've removed both of the figure's hands just for the time being so I can show you all the different hands that he comes with. Out of the box immediately he comes with a pair of slightly relaxed palms. And then he's got a couple of different hands for holding things such as the sword or dagger. He's got a section that looks like it would be holding the arrow. The arrow would fit right in between the two fingers here and pulling back on the bow. And then he's got another hand, an alternating hand for holding both swords. To show you what that one hand looks like holding the arrow, as you can see, the bottom parts of the arrow slides just in between those two fingers. For Themistokles' articulation, his head does rotate all the way around via a ball joint that sits in the cavity of his head. It looks as if he actually has a secondary ball joint that sits inside the rubber-cased neck and likely attaches to the top of the torso area here. He does have a rubber torso, as we've already discussed. This is carryover of a plastic interior torso. And while he does have an ab crunch, it doesn't feel as if you can really move it up and down all that much. However, much like Leonidas, he also does have the top of the torso that seems to be able to hinge back and forth here, which hopefully can be shown here, and you guys can see okay in the video. Arms hinge out, which I have to admit initially were a little stiff when I got the figure out of packaging. Has since loosened itself up. Of course, the arms can rotate all the way around. He has one singular hinge in the elbow, but it also allows the forearm, or what looks to that the forearm could rotate. Perhaps maybe not. It doesn't look like, just a little bit, but I don't know if necessarily there's supposed to be a hinge there. It might likely only be just... Well, you wouldn't be able to rotate the arm, it doesn't look like. Looks like you just might only have an individual hinge here. Hand rotates all the way around, as well as a hinge back and forth. Nothing really new there. Which brings us down to the legs. The legs hinge out, forward, and back. Bend at the knee. Again, I want to think that it rotates, but for the resistance that both the lower leg and the forearm are giving me, makes me think almost that there's just a regular hinge. So maybe tread cautiously. I wouldn't probably entertain the idea of rotating the hinge. I think there's only just a singular hinge happening in the knee here. Then we get down to the feet, which again is one of my only very few nitpicks I can make about this particular figure. It's such a shame for how nicely the boot is sculpted that they could not have kept this as two separate pieces. Sure, it may look like a... Well, that's not necessarily the case. You could have put a little cut around here, which would then leave a very open gap in which the foot would be able to rotate. I mean, yes, the foot rotates left and right this way, but the whole time I'm feeling like I'm hitting resistance doing it. And the last thing it really doesn't allow me to do, which is the one thing I would want it to do, it doesn't allow me it doesn't to allow me to hinge the foot up and down this way. Themistokles is a really solid outing from the folks over at Star Ace. He's not perfect. One of the biggest things that I found with this particular figure was the problems in which his lower feet just don't have as much wiggle room with what you can do with the posing. Unfortunately, with the foot and the lower leg being encapsulated in the denser rubber boots, it really does limit and pretty much eliminates any sort of posability that you can do in the lower ankle portion, which then relies more so on the knees and the legs to really be able to do any sort of dramatic posing with this guy. The head sculpt is nice if you aren't maybe a fan of the more expressioned face sculpts. That could be a deal breaker, but I think specifically with a character like Themistokles, it does work specifically this character, maybe over above and beyond some of the other figures. When you start getting into war characters in battle, I think you can kind of get away with more exaggerated expressions than, say, a regular movie character. He does have some nice additional accessories, the big broad shield, nice bladed weapon. Of course, the helmet is a nice touch as well. He really does have a lot of good things going for him, just not a big fan of the ankles. That's the one thing. If they had only made the ankle or the foot area a separate component from the rest of the boot, I think this guy would have been a home run hit across the board. Either way, though, if you guys are fans of 300 and specifically 300 Rise of the Empire, I still think this is a really great figure to be adding to your collection. Today we were having a look at the Star Ace 300 Rise of an Empire. This was Themistokles, the 1/6 scale collectible action figure. If you guys would like to go back and have a look at some of the other Star Ace reviews that I've done on this channel, fear not. Don't worry, you don't have to go combing the catacombs to find them. There's a playlist on this channel called Star Ace Reviews. You'll be able to go in there and check out all the previous reviews that I've done for Star Ace. Of course, more videos will be coming your way, guys. If you also haven't had a chance to hit that little subscribe button down below, make sure you do so, as many new videos will be coming your way, both 6 scale and other collectibles. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.